RBAC is at the core of authorization in Kubernetes. While RBAC needs to be enabled, and when enabled, RBAC permissions determine the level of access a user or a service account has on a Kubernetes object. In general, the higher roles a user account has, the larger the consequences are when that user account is compromised. Third in the OWASP Kubernetes top 10 list is overly permissive RBAC configurations. Overly permissive RBAC configurations is a very general security risk that describes RBAC permissions that are not minimal and permissions that are granted when not necessary. A cluster admin role is a role in RBAC that grants an account administrative access on the entire Kubernetes cluster. A third-party tool like Istio might require permissions to be granted specifically to certain API groups, while a novice administrator might bind cluster admin role to Istio. Permissions to list and watch may seem benign in the beginning. However, if list and watch operations are used on a Kubernetes object, such as secrets, then list and watch operations reveal the actual secrets stored in a cluster. Unnecessary permissions are granted, foreseeing the overheads of maintaining a complex RBAC scheme and the YAML files that need to be maintained for every role that needs to be created. RBAC is hard to get right, particularly in Kubernetes. Getting RBAC right is increasingly challenging. However, there are things that we certainly can improve. Some of them are using role bindings that are specifically attached to certain namespaces, as opposed to using cluster-wide permissions with cluster role bindings. Periodically audit the accounts that are bound to role bindings for a particular namespace and cluster role bindings for an entire cluster. There are many RBAC tools available to audit and visualize RBAC in a cluster. Some of the widely used tools are Kubernetes RBAC Audit and RBAC Police. Blocking the service account tokens from being automatically mounted to pods is one step closer to following the principle of least privilege, particularly if pods do not need to directly to the API server. Exercise caution when granting list and watch permissions on API objects, as list and watch permissions divulge the object details when listing and watching. Well, that's it for this lecture. Let's move on to the next one.